Most people don't notice the hands first. They notice the face, the smile, the eyes. But look at the hands for a moment. Really look at them. They're calm, almost unnaturally calm. No tension in the fingers, no movement, no visible anxiety anywhere in the posture. Everything feels controlled, carefully controlled. Now look back at the face. Something doesn't match. The hands feel emotionally settled. The expression doesn't. That contradiction is subtle, but once you notice it, it becomes difficult to ignore. The body appears calm. The face does not fully cooperate. The smile never completely arrives. It almost becomes warmth, then stops, as if the emotion changed direction halfway through appearing. That tiny hesitation creates psychological instability, because human beings constantly search for emotional completion in faces, and the Mona Lisa quietly denies it. Ignore the mouth completely for a second. Focus only on the eyes, not the famous idea of the eyes. The actual eyes. They don't look dramatic. They don't feel intense. That's what makes them strange. There's restraint inside them, a kind of emotional distance hiding beneath softness. Now shift your attention back to the mouth. Something changes immediately. The face softens. The expression almost becomes welcoming. But the moment you return to the eyes, that warmth weakens again. The painting keeps emotionally rearranging itself depending on where attention moves. And the brain becomes trapped trying to stabilize it. That's part of what makes the painting exhausting to look at for long periods. Not visually exhausting, psychologically exhausting. The observer keeps unconsciously recalculating the expression, trying to decide what emotion is actually there. And the answer keeps shifting slightly out of reach. Most portraits reveal themselves quickly. You understand the mood. You understand the intention. Then the experience stabilizes. But this painting behaves differently. It delays certainty, and delayed certainty creates tension, especially emotional tension. You can feel this outside art too. Some people speak clearly. Others make you study their expressions afterward. You replay small moments in your head, tiny pauses, half smiles, looks that seemed emotionally incomplete. Not enough to understand, but enough to stay in memory. The Mona Lisa exists permanently inside that exact sensation. Look carefully at the corners of the mouth, not the smile itself. The corners, they almost seem disconnected from the rest of the face, softened by shadow, difficult to define clearly. Leonardo intentionally avoided hard emotional edges, and that changes the entire psychological atmosphere of the painting. Hard lines create certainty. Soft transitions create interpretation. Nothing in the Mona Lisa fully locks into place emotionally. Even the shadows feel emotionally unstable, especially around the cheeks. The expression keeps dissolving slightly before the brain can fully organize it. And then there's the background. At first glance, it barely seems important. Most people focus entirely on the face. But notice how strange the landscape actually feels. The roads don't seem fully logical. The distances feel distorted. The world behind her almost looks emotionally disconnected from reality. It doesn't feel like a real place. Not completely. It feels suspended, dreamlike, almost unfinished. And strangely, her expression carries that same atmosphere, as if the emotional uncertainty of the face extends outward into the entire environment around her. That connection matters psychologically, because the painting doesn't isolate uncertainty to one detail. The instability spreads everywhere subtly. The smile, the eyes, the shadows, the background, even the emotional temperature of the image feels difficult to define. Nothing feels fully warm. Nothing feels fully cold. Everything exists somewhere in between, and human beings are deeply uncomfortable with emotional in-between spaces. We naturally search for resolution, definitions, clear emotional categories. The Mona Lisa quietly refuses all of them. That refusal creates participation. The observer begins emotionally completing the painting internally, projecting interpretation into ambiguity. Some people see kindness, others arrogance, others sadness, others loneliness, and none of those reactions feel completely wrong. That's the disturbing part. The painting becomes partially constructed inside the viewer, not because the artwork changes physically, because uncertainty forces psychological involvement. The observer becomes part of the mechanism. And Leonardo seemed unusually aware of this effect centuries before psychology could formally explain it. Look at the posture again. Nothing dramatic is happening. No grand gesture, no visible emotion, no theatrical storytelling. She simply sits there, but the stillness itself becomes strangely intense after a while, because the painting creates the sensation that something emotional is being deliberately restrained. Not hidden dramatically, controlled quietly, like someone carefully deciding how much of themselves should remain visible. That emotional restraint feels deeply human. Most people know that feeling intimately, the experience of holding emotion in place while trying to appear calm externally. Maybe that's why the painting still feels modern, not because of technique alone, but because the emotional behavior inside the portrait still exists everywhere today. People still perform calmness. People still soften expressions to hide tension. People still conceal uncertainty behind controlled body language. The painting never stopped being recognizable psychologically. Now look only at the eyes again, long enough for the rest of the face to disappear from attention. Something unexpected starts happening. The expression begins feeling more tired, not physically tired, emotionally tired, as if the face is carrying restraint constantly. Then slowly return your attention to the smile. The exhaustion weakens again. The warmth returns slightly, not completely, just enough to destabilize certainty again. The portrait keeps emotionally shifting in tiny increments depending on where the observer looks. And once people notice that, they usually cannot stop testing it. Again, eyes, then mouth, then eyes again. The painting quietly turns observation into repetition, and repetition slowly becomes obsession. Not loud obsession, quiet obsession, private obsession, because the Mona Lisa creates the dangerous sensation that understanding is always almost possible. Almost. Human beings are incredibly vulnerable to almost certainty, almost emotional clarity, almost understanding another person completely. Those things hold attention longer than answers ever do. That may be the real reason the painting survived every generation that tried to explain it. Not because people solved the mystery, but because the mystery keeps reorganizing itself psychologically inside each new observer. The painting never fully closes emotionally, and unfinished things tend to survive longest inside the human mind. Maybe that's why people leave the Mona Lisa feeling strangely unresolved, not amazed exactly, not satisfied, just mentally occupied, as if part of their attention remained inside the painting after they walked away. And maybe that lingering feeling was always the real masterpiece.